Hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Monday, the 19th day of September 2022. Well, I hope you had a good week last week. We've been doing a little bit more harvesting. We had one night of potential frost, but it didn't quite get there. We covered the tomatoes anyway, and uh, but I think we're going to be okay for another couple weeks, so we'll have a little more time, I think, hopefully for my tomatoes to ripen. They're ripening so slowly. It's ridiculous. But we started in a weird, it was a weird spring. So they're just, everything happened later, you know. We did get our corn all in, though. That was cool. So, but anyway, this week, Thursday, we have both Mabon, which is a harvest festival, and the fall equinox on Thursday. The equinox is exactly at 5:58 p.m. Although my ephemeris says it's at 6:02, so I don't know. I'm going to have to double check on all that just to be sure what people are using, but we'll see. So far, I have it at 5:58 p.m. for the equinox. So if you want to do a ritual right at that time, sort of feeling that energy where it comes into complete balance at that moment, where light and dark are the same amount of time. That's a fun thing to do. Sun also enters Libra that day as well. So it's going to be an interesting, energetic experience on Thursday, and of course we'll meet again here on Thursday for the second video that we do here of the week. Mondays and Thursdays I do this, and so it'll be fun on Thursday. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see what the reading's all about. Everything's up on the blog. The newsletter went out. The esoteric influences are up. All the posts I do. I added a tarot card of the week. That's up. I may start to do that for a while, just so that we can talk about, discuss different tarot cards, what they mean, and what they might mean for you that week or what have you. I don't think I'm going to do a rune of the week, although I might. But I also started doing an herb of the week, so I don't know. We'll see. But check that out over there at the blog. It's Stepping Aside is the name of the blog, and the address is imsteppingaside.com. If you forget, click on Show More. Scroll down past the paragraphs I have just talking about what I'm doing here, and there'll be some links below that, and you'll see the web address there. But let's go ahead and talk about today's esoteric influences before we get started on the reading. Since it's the 19th, 19 reduces to 1, so new beginnings and talent and leadership and all that. Kenaz is the rune, Elder Futhark rune for the reading, or rather for the influences. And Tristitia is the Geomancy rune. So you're dealing basically with opposites there. With Kenaz, it's the light or the torch. And so you're really talking about higher awareness, guiding your way, guiding your path. And Tristitia is more ego-based. It's sadness and grief, but it's stuff that where blame may come in, things like that. So there's a little bit of a reactive ego, well, or a lot, depending, of the reactive ego that comes in. So you're really looking at the need for clarity in a situation like that Kenaz can provide. The moon's also in Cancer, so some emotional stuff as well are kicking in. But for today, then, an unexpected situation may provide the impetus for a new opportunity to develop, though. However, creative differences could result, particularly if you or someone else overreacts to a situation, that's not entirely understood. Your intuition may provide insight that a knee-jerk reaction tends to cloud. From a strong foundation, new beginnings are possible, enabling you to survive in spite of circumstances that seem outside your control. So stay true to your values if a situation seems insurmountable, and remain open to the opinions of others. Don't fixate, in other words. We've had a bunch, and right now, Mercury's still in retrograde, so misunderstandings can happen, really easily. And even you can misunderstand a situation. It doesn't have to necessarily mean a misunderstanding between you and someone else communication-wise. You could think something is a certain way, but it really isn't, because you just don't have all the facts. And so that's another part of Mercury retrograde where you're wanting to make sure you know what's going on. It's why they say don't sign legal papers during Mercury retrograde, because you want to make sure you truly understand the situation before you sign off on anything. And sometimes, you don't, for whatever reason. So, try to be aware and listen to what other people have to say, so you get all the perspectives that you need to really understand what's going on. So, but let's go ahead and take the rune for the reading from the Elder Futhark bag. I let them fall through my fingers, and then the last one's the rune. Well, I haven't seen this one in a while in a reading. Rado. Rado is a somewhat complex rune. You see Vunyo in it. You see Laguz, Isa, Kenaz. Forward once, reversed twice, maybe. And what Rado is about, you think rider and horse. It's a journey, but it's an integrated journey. You see the same sort of integration with Ewaz, and also probably with Manaz as well. Ewaz is the intuitive bond we share with one another and the flow we have toward one another, and then Manaz would be the individual in society. So, but you're still talking about integration there, and I think that with Rado you're doing the same thing. So integrated movement, rhythm. Being in it, kind of going along a shared path with other people. If you're familiar with all of the tarot cards, the Six of Wands would be an example of everyone going in the same direction. But let's see what that's the above side of things, of the significator. Let's see what the below side is. I'll throw down the 4 elemental geomancy runes and put them in the order of air, fire, or rather fire, air, water, and earth. So we're really looking at new beginnings, and that's going to align well with the numerology of 1 today. There's Caput there. We have Caput Draconis. Now, Caput Draconis is governed by the north node of the moon. Kata would be governed by the south node, and karma, endings, but here we're on the threshold of something new. And that was the same today with the esoteric influences regarding an unexpected situation, providing the impetus for a new opportunity to develop. So there could be some alignment then with today's esoteric influences with this reading, but we'll see. And clearly it involves some kind of integration with other people, providing that we don't let creative differences get in the way. And if everybody hangs on to their own perspective and they don't want to hear what anyone else has to say, maybe there's a way to combine more than one idea or something. And if you hang on only to your own, then you can't really see that. So, but let's see where this goes. Right now, we have probably on the threshold of some kind of maybe new collaborative experience or some kind of journey we take with others. But let's see what the cards have to say. I've already done some shuffling already here today, so I don't have to spend a whole lot of time doing that now. Let me just shuffle a little bit here, though. And we'll take our first 3 cards and see what we have. I might move these around, but maybe not. In fact, I think I'm going to. I'm going to take the first one and move it to the end. We have the 8 of Wands. Wands are predominant here because the first and last one then would be Wands. So we have the 8 of Wands, the 4 of Swords, and the 2 of Wands. And I think I think this definitely talks about new beginnings and rethinking things and all of that. So let's take a look at the first card, then the 8 of Wands. Here we see 8 staffs essentially being thrown. And you have one that's kind of lagging back there, but that's okay. 8 is about leadership. It can be also, we can also reference harmony, but material recognition and approval. And all of that can lead, if we're going to talk about the idea of new beginnings with Caput Draconis, and it maybe having to do with some kind of integration or rhythm or motion or whatever movement with Rado, this could be the impetus for that. So you have a lot coming in on you, is essentially what the Eight of Wands really talks about. There's a lot coming in. Now, this could be stressful. This could be a lot of ideas coming in, a lot of creative spark coming in. It could be also viewed as a negative in terms of there's a lot of you've got a lot of stuff that's trying to derail you from something. A lot of voices are trying to be heard. And again, that we talked a little bit about that with the esoteric influences for today. But for the time being, let's just think of this as we have a lot of stuff coming in that we're trying to make sense of. We'll think of it that way. And then we move to the Four of Swords here, where you see, and yes, this is a casket, or whatever, but it's the idea of rest. You're letting your thoughts settle. You're letting your thoughts go to rest, and you're trying to find the higher principle of things. That's governed by the stained glass window, suggesting the church, which suggests higher awareness. I mean, I know not everybody views the church that way, but sort of some spirituality there. We'll think of it in terms of that. And basically, it also tends to show some compassion in the scene when you take a closer look at the well, and it kind of looks like what is it, the Six of Cups, where you have the woman offering something to the other person here. So I think that there's an element of shared compassion, shared journey, shared this and that Rado could probably align with here. But basically, this is letting your thoughts come to rest. And so you've got all this stuff coming in on you, all these ideas, all these maybe new opportunities. We could even think of it that way. And you have to make some kind of sense about it, all right? Some kind of integration. So whether this is integration then about someone else, with someone else or a group of someone else's, or whether it's just the inner integration you need to have in order to make sense of your experiences. Rado could also be that. You know, when you look at the idea of rider and horse with Rado, then it's really just the movement, the momentum that takes you where you need to go. So it doesn't have to necessarily involve other people. It's just that when you're talking about the rider and the horse, you're talking about two entities that are coming together in a shared journey or a shared path. And so that's why you can think of that as other people as well, even though it's a horse that it really talks about. But there's that integrated awareness maybe that you could have. You could look at it that way. And I think that if you do, then I think it aligns really well with the Four, where you're taking the moment, you're taking the respite. Four can be about respite, and you're taking that time to let your thoughts settle and to come up with something that really makes sense for you. The swords, whereas you have wands, which is the fire element, and creativity and opportunity and motivation and the genesis of something, here you have a moment of rest with swords, where the swords is about your intellect, and so you're letting your mind come to rest after feeling maybe a little overwhelmed by all of this, because all of it coming in at the same time is a little bit overwhelming, right? But again, if you're talking about leadership or material recognition and approval, but particularly leadership, you have to be able to handle all of that, right? If you're the person in charge, if you're the person who seems in the group that sort of rises above everybody and gets everybody organized and corralled around, right, to one purpose, right? So I think that there's just this feeling of a lot's coming in. You have to consider a lot of different things. Maybe it is opportunity, and it could be unexpected. The idea of all of this happening at once could feel a sense of unexpectedness to it. where suddenly you're there and like, oh my goodness, you know. Well, here then you go ahead and again, and you let all that, you let your mind come to a rest, and you consider all the things you need to be thinking about and figure out what's going to be the best way to go. And then you make the decision with the two. Now, one way to read this particular staff, you see it's affixed to the wall, but one way to read that is that you have some experience from the past, but put together here, it almost looks like he's standing in the doorway. He's holding a globe in one hand and a staff in the other, while one is affixed behind him in a sense. So he's got this doorway. You also see it represented right here by the way the upper level of whatever he's standing on, whether it's a bridge or, I mean, we don't know what he's standing on. It could be the top of a castle, for example, because he looks like he's a man of means, maybe a merchant of some kind. He's looking out over the ocean. And he's holding the globe in his hand. It's almost like he's got all the opportunities possible in his mind, but he's standing on the precipice, basically, again, caput draconis, of something new in his life, of a new opportunity that he's making a decision about. Again, he considered all of them that were coming in, perhaps many of them unexpected, or all of them unexpected, and then he had to make some sense out of all of it, integrate all of it into his awareness by taking a moment and, letting it all come to rest, so he can see what's really going to benefit him the most. And so he has to consider all of the rationale for all of it. That would be swords, rationale, reason, balance, awareness, communication, legal issues, cutting through deception. That's all swords. So he has this conversation perhaps with the higher self, and he says, okay, what do I do? Where do I go from here? I've got all these opportunities to think about, many, and if we align it with today's esoteric influences, then they're unexpected things that have arisen that maybe open the door to something new. But you can't simply act on impulse. You have to find some integration there. You have to find some kind of understanding of what's the best decision for you, what's the best direction to take, what's the best opportunity to take. And it's not something that you can act on impulse. In a sense, there's a feeling of impulsivity here, where it's all just coming in on you, and it just feels overwhelming, and you really need to take the time out to really analyze what's going on. Analysis is another key word for swords and the air element. All right, so we've got fire and we've got air, but we have to be careful how much air we give to the fire that then stokes it up, right? And so that we select the thing that makes the most sense in our lives. And again, if it involves collaboration with others, although the cards don't seem to suggest that, you have to have some kind of integration with others, maybe with Rado. But if it isn't a collaboration with others, maybe that's implied, because maybe you have a family that's going to be impacted by whatever decision you make about the opportunities that you're trying to figure out and sort through, and figure out what's the best direction, the best journey, the best Rado, what's going to give me the most integration in my life. Maybe that could be what that could be about. But again, at the end of the day, after you do that, after you take that time to really consider what's going on and what you really need in your life, then you can stand on the precipice of something new, on the threshold of something new, and walk through that doorway into a new opportunity that could be quite lucrative for you. Because if you know the tarot, you know that the next card in the suit of wands is the three of wands, and there he's no longer looking in this direction, he's looking in this other direction, and he's looking for his ship to come in. You see the harbor and you see ships out there in the harbor, and the implication is he's made the decision in the 2, and then in the next card he's waiting for for his ship to come in. Basically, he's waiting for the new opportunities to manifest into something lucrative for him. So that's kind of interesting that everything aligns today. That's weird. Usually there'll be like a component here or there that will, but the whole thing, I don't know. But again, I talk about it, about your intuition providing insight that a knee-jerk reaction tends to cloud. And I really think that that could be part of this as well, couldn't it? Taking that moment to consider what you know and what's your general gut feeling about it. Sometimes listening to that will give you more insight than, especially if it's something where you're feeling uncomfortable. It's like, yeah, that might be, exciting. It might bring a lot of money and all that, but there's something about it that's keeping you from making that choice. And so if that's true, then there's something about it that doesn't feel right. And so that's where I think when you have a lot of unexpected things coming in on you, things that you're now going to have to think about, which is what you're doing with the 4. Eventually, you're going to come to the decision you need to make, and then you can try to figure out how to manifest that. Making that decision to walk through that new door into new experiences, new opportunities. So let's see, 4 and 8 is 12. That's 3 and 2 is 5. So did I do that right? Yep. So clearly some change is in the offing, isn't it? 5 is about change. It's about protection. It's about freedom versus restriction. So the whole freedom versus restriction idea could come into play here as well. How much, depending on the opportunity you choose, how much freedom are you going to have? Are you going to be, or is the one you're feeling like you want to choose, maybe it's going to restrict what you do, but it could be in service for something better later on. It's like when you maybe take a second job because you want to save up some money for a down payment on a house, or a down payment on a new car, or maybe your family wants to take a vacation or something and you can't afford it, and so maybe you take a second job or a side gig of some kind, a side hustle, and you make some extra money and you put it all away. So for something that you want to do together. Well, it's going to restrict what you can do in your life to, as far as the things you were doing, because you have some more commitments now. But at the same time, it could be in service for a higher goal. And so, you have to measure it out, freedom versus restriction. What's most important in my life right now? Do I want to have a little more free time, or do I want to go ahead and buckle down and do some things that maybe restrict some of that, but in the long run, the gain is going to be worth whatever restriction I have to deal with at that moment. There's an element of protection with the 5 as well. You may have a situation when you're looking at the 4 of Swords where part of what you're considering is these opportunities might be great, but how do I protect my family? How do I protect my material security? That's involved in the 8. We could assume that every opportunity could help you gain material security, but at the same time, it may not. Everyone's situation is different, and so it may not. So you have to make the decision as to where you want to go, and finally in the 2, after the respite you take in the 4, that you do that. You sit back, you listen to your inner voice, and you find the truth of what you need to have in your life. And here you've made the decision to do that. Or you could say you have to take that time out, listen to your intuition before making the decision. Only when you do that can you make the decision. So that could be another way to read it. But it's clear that with Caput Draconis, there's something new that could be coming into play today or over the next few days. And you just need to pay attention and see it from an integrated perspective. In other words, understand the whole motion, the whole rhythm, where it can take you. And is it going to be in alignment with others that you need to be in alignment with, or even just alignment with your own needs? or is it going to cause you some untold grief that you really thought, oh, this is a good idea, but then you get into it and it's like, oh geez, what did I get myself into? Is it going to be one of those moments? And every opportunity that comes your way, they're not necessarily the right fit, right? So that's why you have to take time out and carefully consider them and be sure that in fact it's going to take you where you need to go. And once you know that, once you take that time to think about it, then you can make the right decision for yourself. So I guess that's it. That's an easy one, really. But it's interesting that it really aligns really well with the esoteric influences. I do these things. I write all this up like a week in advance, or at least 4 or 5 days in advance before I post them. And I didn't do that this morning. It's so there's no way that I'm like in that mindset or anything, when I do the reading. So it's kind of interesting when things align. So you have to say to yourself, well, maybe there's more evidence for some things that are going to happen today or for the next few days here, that could open some doors for you and take you into a new experience that could be lucrative, and or maybe even just give you the recognition that could then be a jumping off point for a new job or a new position within the company you're in or something like that. If you're self-employed, it could be that you've got a lot of customers that are wanting you to do things for them, and you can either get them in order and schedule them out, or make some decisions about whether or not you want to take on all of them, or if there's just some of it that is really not your thing really to do. And so maybe you make a referral to some other business or something for them, but that who might be able to serve their needs better. But the point is that there could be several things that you have to consider right now, and you can't necessarily do them all. So it'd be nice if you could, but boy, then you sure would be dealing with freedom versus restriction, wouldn't you? So with the 5 energy of the reading. So anyway, I guess that's it. Not too bad to begin a Monday. Again, if you celebrate Mabon, if you want to have some kind of harvest dinner, the Thursday or Friday or the weekend or whatever, kind of, if you grow a garden, it's always a fun thing to do. I like to make a big soup with all the vegetables that I've grown and put them in there. And I don't know if I'm going to do that this time or not. We'll see. But maybe I will. I'll see if I have time to do that or not, but because we've got a lot going on this week here at the house, but we'll see. I probably will. I haven't done a soup in a while, and my husband loves them, so we'll probably do something like that. He's been harvesting potatoes, and we've been getting some really nice bakers, so we've been having baked potato every day. But anyway, lots of things to do this week, and but I hope you'll come back on Thursday for another edition of As Above, So Below. If this is your first time here, I'm so glad you've decided to check this out. And if you like, you can give it both a like and subscribe to the channel. That'd be awesome. And I'd really love you to do that and come back and join us here twice a week for As Above, So Below. It's just kind of an interesting way to look at different influences from the tarot, from different runes, astrology, all of that that impact our whole and numerology as well. It just impacts how we might make our decisions and things to consider, at least. I'm not really about predictions, but I'm more about giving people ideas and the tools to make decisions and things to consider. Sometimes we get caught up in our own lives and our own perceptions and all of that, and we don't stop to think that, well, maybe there's another way I could see this or something. And so that's really what I try to do here, instead of telling people how to think or feel. Although I guess I do tend to present my concept of who we are. But again, that's mine. And if it resonates, great. If it doesn't, if you think, oh, well, that's nutty, that's fine too. But, but do come back and join me twice a week for this. And who knows, maybe you'll, if you've never worked with runes or tarot before, maybe it'll stimulate you to do that. It's a lot of fun. So anyhow, thanks again for watching, and come back on Thursday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.